wash.
This is Richard Baptiste, the father of 10-year-old Rebekah, and his longtime girlfriend, Anicia Woods, his children called their stepmom. These so-called parents will soon realize that police are only moments away from finding out the truth. This wasn't a runaway at all. So, what happened? Let's go with the 911 call first.
911, what's the location of your emergency?
Hey, Rose.
What's the location of your emergency?
We're on I-80 headed towards Holbrook. It's my daughter. She's with us. We live out in the desert, and we're calling to Holbrook to the EMS station.
That's the voice of Anicia Woods on a frantic 911 call that, at least on the surface, sounds like a desperate plea for help. Beside her is Richard Baptiste. He is repeating the same story they've told everyone. The little girl just ran away again.
She ran away for the third time in a week in the desert, and when the neighbor found her in the wash, she was unresponsive completely. And by the time she got back to the house, she was barely breathing, so I'm breathing for her now. She's unresponsive, unconscious, and unable to breathe for herself.
Is she breathing?
I'm breathing for her.
What do you mean?
I am putting my mouth around hers and breathing in her lungs. Yes.
But what neither of them realizes at this moment is that the 911 dispatcher, the paramedics on the way, and the officers heading toward that highway are already picking up on details that don't match the story they're telling. The Bodycam picks up the moment the patrol car rolls to a stop on the dusty shoulder of Highway 180 in Holbrook on July 27th. Their body cams capture a moment that feels wrong from the very beginning.
How long has it been since she's been responsive? We don't know. She ran away and they found her in the dirt. We only know for as long as he got her on the quad and gave her to us.
Where were you guys at?
We live
east of Petrified Forest, and we're like 20 minutes in.
So you're in Apache County?
Yeah, but we just moved here at the start of the month, so I'm still kind of getting the...
She was involved in an accident?
No, she ran away. She's on medications. And she hasn't been on these medications in about a month because we've been moving.
Okay.
And then she ran.
Hold on a second.
I'm sorry, it's on silence.
What happened, guys?
Ran away. And when they found her, this is how she was.
11 years old Rebekah is lying on the ground beside the family's car, unresponsive, severely injured, and surrounded by two adults who seem far more focused on explaining than helping.
How long has it been since you found her unresponsive?
We don't know. The neighbor
For us,
When did the neighbor bring her?
it's 11:48. It had to have been probably close to 11. At least 30.
What's your neighbor's name?
I don't know. I just moved out here. Most of the people that I know are relatives of my uncle who died. So I'm still getting used to the people.
Whose child is that?
It's fine.
Is that hers too?
No, that's my girlfriend.
He repeats the story as if saying it enough times might make it true.
I'm gonna need a number for him anyway, so.
Yeah, let me look it up.
Polycystic breathing.
Alright, ma'am. So walk me through what happened today.
We were outside starting the morning. Before I can get waters in the bottles, she went running off again.
Okay, you saw her run off?
No, she
okay.
disappears. We have them play in the yard, and she was supposed to go stand in the shade and go wait for me, because that's where we've been keeping her, to be outside. She can't be trusted in the building because she gets there. There's knives, there's weapons, there's everything.
Okay.
So I had her standing outside. I turned around to go grab waters for bottles, and she was gone.
Okay. Was she complaining of any pain, any sickness, anything like that today?
She's been complaining of a headache.
A headache?
Ever since she ran away the first day, she's been complaining of a headache.
Okay, this is frequently running away lately?
It's 3 times in less than 2 weeks.
She actually ran away a week before we moved out here. So
Yeah, she actually jumped out the window. I was telling the other officer over there in the beige that she, just before we came up here, I didn't tell him about what he was bringing up. My dad brought up, she just ran away before we came up here. That one was super scary. She kicked out a screen and jumped out
How long
the
ago was that?
second store window.
It was
a week before we moved here.
It was
Okay.
the last week of June.
So it sounds like there's been a history of behavioral issues.
Yes, he was asking me if she had a history. She's had this long history of running away.
Okay.
Medics eventually find a faint pulse and rush Rebekah first to Winslow, then by air to Phoenix Children's Hospital. But investigators aren't done.
Going to Rural Colorado Medical Center, I think it's like 1520 Williamson in Winslow right now until they can get a medical air vac. And if she gets air vac, they'll probably take her to Flagstaff. And then Flagstaff, they may or may not take her down to Phoenix. So
Children for Phoenix Children's.
Yeah, so I would just follow up with the hospitals. That'll be the fastest route.
You know, way out there, EMS could have met you way out there on the way.
We were trying to call them.
Something like that. Yeah. And I understand. You guys are doing what you can. Okay? But we'll let you guys get out of here and get to the hospital. Okay?
So it's called the Little Colorado Medical Center if you want to look it up on your phone. Okay.
Okay? So let's just get there safely, okay? Seatbelts and
Speed limit.
just try and get there for your daughter, okay?
A report from the Navajo County Sheriff's Office later describes what they found at the family's home. A yurt in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by nothing but dirt and isolation. No running water, no electricity that worked consistently, no shower. Just a cramped, cluttered structure the children had been living in, and no one is around for miles. Long before anyone dialed 911, the story of what happened to little Rebekah Baptiste had already been unfolding. For nearly 2 years, teachers, neighbors, and even police in Phoenix had raised concerns about Rebekah and her brothers. Her school reported unexplained scratches, bruises, and moments where the children whispered that they didn't want to go home. Empower College Prep called Child Services again and again, a dozen times according to the school, each time hoping someone would step in before things got worse. But every report seemed to disappear into paperwork. Most didn't meet the statutory criteria for investigation, and when the family abruptly moved out of Phoenix and into a remote patch of Apache County, DCS completely lost track of them. From that moment on, Rebekah's world became smaller, darker, and harder for anyone on the outside to see. Now, I don't think children repeatedly run from home unless they're running from something, right? And when officers finally examined the injuries on her body, those injuries told a story. Heartbreaking one. The information might be a little strong. You can skip to 2 more minutes to the next part. She was severely dehydrated to the point where doctors later said she wouldn't have been physically capable of running anywhere on her own.
What is LCMC?
Little Colorado Medical Center.
And do you know how she got there?
Via ambulance.
And so when once she got to LCMC, did you receive sort of some first impressions from Sergeant Arona?
Yes, I did.
And did you document those in your initial report on from July 27th?
Yes, I did.
Can you tell the court the information that you received that day about RB?
Sergeant Arona had contacted me and told me that she had bruises from head to toe. There was injuries to her vaginal and her anus area. She had damaged, missing toenails and burn marks on her back that appeared to be consistent with cigarette burns.
And after you received those first impressions, did you also were you aware that he spoke to one of the doctors at LCMC?
Yes, I was.
And so prior to today, did you review his supplemental report that sort of described the different injuries from her body head to toe?
Yes, I have.
So I'm going to ask you a little bit about that, and then and let me see. If I start with, you've mentioned a little bit of the dehydration. What was the information that was provided by Little Colorado to Apache County specific to her dehydration?
That she was so severely dehydrated that she would not be able to walk on her own power.
And then in terms of her head, what was the initial information provided?
She was missing large chunks of hair from her head, so the doctor had mentioned a possible significant brain injury.
And then, so in terms of throughout the investigation, did that come to fruition? There's in the medical records.
Yes.
How about, and you just talked about the top of her head, how about her face? What was described from her face?
Her lips were very dry and chapped. She had a bruise on her left eye.
How about her arms?
I would need to refer to Sergeant Rona's supplement.
This wasn't a fall. It wasn't a child, quotes, running through the desert. It was years of violence written all across her body. When detectives confronted Richard Baptiste, he first denied everything. But the photos were too much to explain away, and eventually, the truth began slipping out. He admitted to using a belt. He admitted to excessive force. And when asked how he could do this to his own child, he quietly said, "I used excessive force. I don't deserve to be a dad." And Woods, who once worked as a CNA and should have understood medical emergencies, failed to administer proper CPR and delayed getting help. She framed everything as discipline, saying the kids were punished with laps, planks, and other physical exercises, calling Rebekah a behavioral problem. And when detectives asked what she thought should happen to someone who seriously injures a little girl, her emotionless answer was, maybe some jail time. An investigator spoke to Rebekah's younger brothers, and the boys revealed what life inside that yurt was really like. Woods, the stepmom, was the one who hit the hardest.
And for the record, for this time frame, this was KB1 in November of 2023. He would have been 6.
Yes.
So February 10th of 2024, who was the report involving with Empower that day? Which child?
KB1 as well.
And what was the report? What was the issue?
That he had came to school again with scratch marks on his neck.
Did he give any indication why he had scratch marks on his neck?
He said that he got in trouble and that his mom did it.
And after he said he got in trouble and his mom did it, did he say anything after that happened?
No, he did not.
Direct you to September 13th, 2024. Can you tell us which child that report involved?
Also KB1.
And can you describe what KB1, what the issue was?
He also had scratch marks on his neck and described that his mom did it because he was being bad at home.
And after he described saying that his mom did it because he was being bad at home, did he say anything additional or change the story?
He said that his head hurt and he needed to go to the nurse's office.
November 16th, 2024, Judge. So KB2 is 5 years old, and what is the complaint?
That there's no food at home and he's forced to do planks as a form of punishment.
And when he's asked who does that, who does he say?
Anicia and Richard.
Does he call him Anicia and Richard?
Yes.
Does he describe when the planks happened and when the food was missing? Does he say how often?
Just about every day he explains being tired and hungry.
Did he talk about how he felt about leaving school with his parents?
Yes.
And what did he say about that?
When the staff asked him why he didn't want to go home, he told them that he is not allowed to talk about it.
He was told he was not allowed to talk about it? Did he say who he was? Did he say who told him that?
I would need to refer to this report. Oh, yes, his dad, Richard.
His dad, Richard.
Their interviews painted the same picture as Rebekah's injuries. A home where punishment wasn't correction, it was control, fear, and pain. And without those watchful eyes, it continued unnoticed until the day Rebekah couldn't survive it anymore. And the parents, from the excuse on the highway Bodycam video to the confession later, it was all calm, not breakdown, not grief, nothing like the story he built. Rebekah tried to signal for help in every way a child knows how, She ran. She told teachers she didn't want to go home, and the adults around them, teachers, neighbors, even officers, did what they could. The lesson here isn't about blame. It's about awareness. Even small patterns can point to something much deeper happening inside the home. If something feels wrong, don't ignore it. And if you're unsure, report anyway. Because one call might be the call that finally reaches the right person. Most of all, Rebekah's story teaches us that protecting children isn't only a responsibility of parents or agencies. It's a responsibility shared by the entire community, like us. As of now, the case against Richard Baptiste and Anicia Woods is moving fully into the trial phase. This is a preliminary hearing, and both defendants are facing some of the most serious charges the state of Arizona can bring. After the hours-long preliminary hearing on September 4th, the judge ruled there was enough evidence to bind both cases over for trial. The two were arraigned just days later, on September 8th, where they each entered a not guilty plea. Both remain charged with first-degree murder, multiple counts of child, additional charges related to the treatment of all three children. Their bonds were originally denied, then later set at $1 million each, meaning they remain in custody while the case moves forward. Right now, the case against Richard Baptiste and Anicia Woods is still in the early stages of the legal process. Both defendants have officially entered not guilty pleas, meaning they're denying all charges and preparing for a full trial. After the preliminary hearing, the court agreed that there was enough evidence to move the case forward, but no trial has taken place yet. There is no verdict, no sentence, and no final ruling at this point. In other words, the justice process is underway, but the final chapter has not been written yet. We'll keep following every development from future hearings to the start of the trial as Arizona prepares to bring this case before a jury. If you have more information, please let us know. And if you'd like to stay updated on Rebekah's case and others like it, make sure you're subscribed and feel free to share your thoughts below. Cases like this remind us how important community awareness truly is. Thank you for watching, and as always, take care of yourselves and look out for one another.